For our next presentation, I'd like to invite Lisa Bagley, Ecosystem Manager at Barclays Bank, to the stage. Lisa has worked for Barclays Bank for the last 10 years, both in retail banking and business banking. She now manages the Eagle Lab farm, which has an industry vertical in Agritech. The facility's vision is to accelerate the UK agriculture's adoption of emerging technologies to increase efficiencies across the food supply chain from field to fork. The facility has over 150 Agritech businesses within its community who are helping to drive the industry to a more productive, efficient and environmentally sustainable future. Lisa, welcome to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. Can you see me okay? Okay, so my name's Lisa. Thank you for that introduction, Zoe. I'm from Barclays Bank Eagle Labs and I'm the Ecosystem Manager, as Zoe says. And today I'm going to be talking to you about Agritech, what it is, why it's so important and what we are going to do about it, and hopefully demystifying a little bit as I go along. Okay, so there are two statistics I want to talk to you today about, and if you only take these away with you and remember them, then I can say that this has been a job well done. Global population is predicted to grow to 9 billion by 2050. So the question that follows is, if we all have these mouths to feed, how are we going to feed that growth? And depending on which report you read, 60 to 70% more food is needed, with some food reports stating 150%. This doesn't take into account that a third of all food produced is wasted before it hits the supermarket shelves. So when we look at the extra food we need, it's not just about the food grown, but also looking to reduce this amount of wastage. Taking all that into account, the question is normally, how can we look to increase the amount of food produced, but with no extra land to use, but also looking to do this in an environmentally and sustainable way, so we are not continuing to wreck the planet. Seeing the average temperature rise, and if you have seen David Attenborough's documentary on Netflix, then you will know he can do far more justice than I can in spelling out the changes we need to make to avoid the predictions of the planet becoming inhabitable by 2100. Now, Agritech is seen as the holy grail and is going to answer that question and is hopefully going to solve all our food challenges. This will come down to how we apply technology to support farmers, making them feel more comfortable in using the technology and convince them that it's not there to replace them. Now, farmers who do use technology are more likely to replace those that don't, which is the big thing here. Now, what is Agritech? Now, Agritech is the use of technology and innovation which helps to improve productivity, the efficiency and the sustainability of agriculture. It's the application of technology to all elements of the growing process. This does always raise the question, though, is Agritech just for farmers? And I think this is because of the term Agritech. But in actual fact, this covers the whole food supply chain process from field to fork. So once that food or produce leaves the farm, it goes on to then be processed or manufactured, then into the distribution channels, making its way to the supermarket and ultimately ending up on your plate. It's the whole field to fork journey where we want to support, and I've listed a few examples of the areas where technology is supporting agriculture and disrupting. So IoT, which is the Internet of Things, this is the things like sensors that go into the ground and the use of drones that can scan a field to be able to collect a large quantity of data, which can be given back to Mr. Farmer to say that you don't need to spray your whole field today, as you only have weeds in one part of that field. So AI and robotics, so this is all about artificial intelligence. You may have seen in the press all about driverless tractors using things like GPS. This may be the things of sci-fi and tomorrow's world at the moment. However, COVID hasn't caused the labour shortages that we are seeing, but it certainly highlighted the contribution robotics can make to the labour shortages we are encountering, as well as the time this can give back to the farmer and their families. Now, precision farming, this really builds on the first area that I talked about. And in fact, that should Mr. Farmer have an issue with weeds in one area of the field, Rather than having to spray a field full of pesticides, they can save the time and money and only treat in that one area that is needed. The added benefit to the environment is there is less of a risk of pesticides running off. The soil health and optimization, this is all around nurturing that soil, which ultimately the food that you eat and the grass that the animals consume grows from the ground up. So why would we not want to ensure that this is optimized to the very best that it can be to grow higher quality foods with greater yields for the farmer, or by monitoring that soil content? So this is all around regenerative agriculture, which is looking to improve the soil quality and not continue to make it of a worse quality, thereby growing better quality food and crops for our plates. Vertical farming and controlled environmental agriculture. This is all around things like city farms or areas in the Middle East where the land is not viable for growing crops in the standard way. However, containers or warehouses can be repurposed and adapted with UV lighting, temperature-controlled environments and water irrigation systems. This means you can grow crops and food. So a cool fact around that is that Emirates, the airline, use vertical farming to grow all of their salads for their onboard flights and meals. So, and lastly, alternative proteins. So this is all around plant-based proteins and lab-grown proteins, which is like meat, but it's not meat. This is helping to combat the environment issues and in certain types of intensive farming, which have a great impact on the environment and can be seen in the US of A. So all of these form part of what we call the fourth agricultural revolution, going through mechanisation and the green revolution, touching on restoring soil health all the way through to the introduction of the Agritech area I've spoken about, which all cover things like productivity, sustainability and efficiency. But one of the areas that isn't really talked about and is equally important is time. So as an example of this, an area of farming technology that isn't so new, which was introduced around 15 years ago, is robotic milkers. So this is hailed as a real success story for Agritech. So if you think about the time a dairy farmer has to dedicate to milking their herd twice a day, depending on the size of the herd, that can take anywhere between 2 and 6 hours of their day. So starting early in the morning, being able to leave his cows in an adapted farm to milk themselves rather than having to physically be there to attach the udders and check for signs of mastitis, he can leave the cows to milk themselves, often meaning far more regular milking by the cows, which leads to an increased production of milk and the farmer having the time back to be more productive on other areas of his farm, or simply having that time back to spend with his family. So, our vision is to accelerate the UK agricultural industry's adoption of emerging technology to increase efficiency across the food supply chain from field to fork. Now, what we want to do is to enable and equip our farmers with the knowledge to help them become the most digitally savvy in the agricultural workforce, hopefully in the world. Now, I know that is a big aspiration, but it's what us here at Barclays and the LEA are working towards. Here we have a few stats of what we have been doing over the last 11 months or so before we open the lab. We have held in excess of 17 events now, including topics like controlled environmental agriculture, robotics, farming and soil health and its importance. Now we've built up a network of over 150 businesses all across the UK, and even some of them being international. And of all of those 150 businesses, so far they have raised 140 million in investment money. Now, this has all been around building out our community to facilitate the right connections to help their businesses grow. And this is all around laying the foundations and building out a network. So when we launched the Eagle Lab farm, we had a network of like-minded businesses and individuals to join us and collaborate. So now to talk on about the lab. So in October, we launched the eagerly anticipated Eagle Lab Farm incubation site in partnership with the Lincoln Institute of Agri-Food Technology, a dedicated facility designed to offer agri-tech entrepreneurs access to world-class resources where they can develop new technologies to support sustainability, efficiency, and productivity in the food and farming industry. as well as having access to the core facilities of Barclays Eagle Lab, like coaching and mentoring by the renowned Codebase and Cambridge Business School. They have access to a wide variety of events hosted on topics like the AI and networking with like-minded businesses, and access into funding readiness programs, accelerators, and female founder programs. So that all comes with an ecosystem manager as well. So the farm itself is comprised of facilities like a 200-hectare working farm with pasture, arable and woodland sites, a commercially robotic strawberry research farm, including autonomous robotic fruit picking and transportation to a handling unit, a protected polytunnel to crop growth and trials, a small-scale walled outdoor robotics trial area comprising crops in beds and access for non-destructive trial vehicles, a larger-scale crop field site which will also have access for robotic vehicles, indoor hard surface robotics laboratories for construction, assembly tasks, robotic trials and demonstrations, and a teaching plus presentation area, a large multifunctional engineering workshop and model refrigeration supermarket centre, so we can emulate the whole food to fork to supply chain. So along with this, we have 30 desks and 4 offices that can be hired on a monthly basis, all with the added benefit of an on-site ecosystem manager to facilitate networking connections with the world-class research team in the Lincoln Institute of Agri-Food and Technology, as well as the Lincoln Ag Robotics team. So I would like to thank you all for your time today. Please take note of my email, and should you want to come and visit the lab or just find out more information on there, please get in touch, and I am happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I think Agritech is another great example of an exciting area that blends one of our oldest industries with one of our newest.